Okay, welcome to Empower University this snowy afternoon. We appreciate all of you zooming in today and joining us for Empower University, which is an extension of Longmont Startup Week, and it taps into Longmont and the Boulder County business community to help bring those deep insights, inspiration, and the information that we've brought together through local entrepreneurs, and startups that begin with Longmont Startup Week and then continue through the rest of the year with these quarterly in-person networking and social events. These events are managed here at Avocet and Avocet Communications, and we're very pleased to be holding court with local leaders and entrepreneurs and innovators and disruptors every third Wednesday of the month. And we alternate between speaker presentations and social gatherings and networking events. So if you haven't dropped by on the third Wednesday of each month, please do so. Today is the exception, obviously, because of the weather. And we wanted to make sure that we got a chance to spend some time with Valerie today. So that's why we changed everything to all virtual. So thank you very much for flexing to that. It is my pleasure to introduce Valerie Eastman. She is the founder and president of Winter Winds Robotics. Valerie is a seasoned business builder, educator, and instructional designer who founded Winter Winds Robotics in 2018. And she became interested in how research-based educational approaches could be applied to artificial intelligence and robotics. Today, Winter Winds provides a range of high-context engineering, project, and product management services for tech companies building mission-critical systems. Winter Winds is also building its own suite of highly reliable products that help humans in harsh environments live to see another sunrise, wherever that may be, Earth, the Moon, Mars, and beyond. So without further ado, allow me to introduce and hand over to Valerie.
Thank you very much, Dave, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Dave, can you hear me all right?
Sounds great. I'm going to go on.
Okay, excellent. And I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, and can you see my screen, Dave?
Looks great.
Okay, wonderful. Right. Well, thank you, everyone tuning in. Today, I am going to share with you about how to stay positive in an increasingly negative world. For people who have known me for a long time, this is not surprising, but people who have known me just the past few years since I've done business in Colorado, they're a little bit surprised to learn that positivity is not natural to me. And some folks may wonder, well, why would I have a naturally negative person present on how to stay positive? And I would say that I tend to learn my best lessons from people who have really struggled to be a certain way or to achieve something, because it's my opinion as an educator and somebody who enjoys a good challenge that the hard lessons are the best ones, are the ones that stick with us the longest. So kind of the etiology of my struggle with negativity, I was born, like so many people, into generational poverty. And I also struggled a lot with health issues that were both genetic and then kind of environmental in nature. I was born with a spinal deformity that led to me needing to have several reconstructive spinal surgeries by the time that I was 25. And then in addition to that, I also developed cancer in my early 30s. And just some of those hardships caused me to go as a naturally negative person to artificially go the opposite direction in an unsustainable positive direction that did not ultimately serve me or those around me. So we'll kind of go through the journey through that and how I got to a better state of equilibrium that led to more authentic positivity. So like any of us who have been in business through the pandemic and even slightly before, I've talked to so many colleagues, and it's weird. We didn't know that the pandemic would hit, but in the same token, something was kind of brewing. And I just really, I really feel that, especially as I'm speaking with you today. I gave my all during the pandemic. I don't regret any of that. I helped people, I helped family, I helped employees, I helped colleagues just get through the very difficult emotional time that I think all of us went through as we realized in this once in a lifetime crisis, just kind of the things that were building up in us. We were forced to kind of look at those with new eyes, and I became completely depleted. All of that positivity that I was trying so hard to show, it just wasn't really authentic, and I had really crashed and burned. And I just became completely sad and negative, depleted. I just wasn't as passionate as I wanted to be about my business. And so as a result of just kind of crashing like that, my health suffered terribly until just recently, within the last 6 to 9 months. My friendships and relationships struggled. I wasn't immune to that. Like so many of us were not immune to that. I'm still mending all of these various fallouts in my life. And I think if I didn't have that wake-up call of realizing, hey, this business that I built with so many amazing people, it was about to become at risk as a result of this crashing. And so I realized that I needed to quickly act and figure something out that was not just running from negative to positive, but that was actually authentic and helpful to not just me, but the people in my sphere of influence. So we're just going to go through the things that worked for me, that have led to lasting change, and that I hope you might find help you. And before we do that, I just want to make sure that it's clear that I'm not a mental health professional. And we've been talking a lot in business and in society about mental health right now, and that's wonderful. And so I'll be talking about some things today that are a little bit adjacent to true, pure mental health, and that apply to being a business and a startup owner or founder. But if you're feeling at all distressed by anything that I talk about, or if just in general, the new helpline number is 988, so it's a little bit more easy to remember. And if you feel that you need help, please get it. You really deserve it. I actually just heard of somebody the other day who did receive quite a bit of help from that, somebody in Longmont. And so I would really just encourage you to get help if you need it. It's out there. Again, the purpose of today's presentation is to just share some thoughts on how you can inform yourself, reform yourself, and transform yourself to genuinely feel a little bit more positive as a business owner and a person overall, and in a genuine fashion. So it's not hard to admit, and just by looking around and existing in the world that we live in today, and just notice that we're stressed, we're really negative and we're stressed. And if it's not, if it's not something political, it's some new catastrophe happening every day. If it's not that, it's some bad news we get, it's bills, it's debt, it's everything. It's just, we're negative and stressed. I was really surprised to see a statistic the other day that we are tied for 4th place on Outlook with Sri Lanka, Iran, and Albania. I know people from 2 of those countries. And I think as Americans, we were just raised to believe that this is the most positive, happiest place on earth. And so it was really striking to me to hear that at least by some metrics, is not the case, that we're having a real issue of negativity right now. And as I shared before, there's just so much going on in the world right now that makes it pretty understandable why we're very negative right now. And it just never ends. It's just some new thing all of the time. So with that, we're expected as business owners to stay strong no matter what, even when everybody around us is falling apart. And I very much agree with that. I think that if we're leaders, if we're to be leaders, we need to be we need to be strong. We need to be positive as much as we can. But in the same token, we are human, and there's just really no way around that. And on top of that, people who follow leaders are very keenly aware of when a disposition is not authentic. So it really is incumbent upon us to figure out, okay, how do we be an ideal leader, or at least as close to an ideal leader as we possibly can, but authentically. And that's just so hard when society is struggling so much, and we as business owners and startup founders are living within the same laws of physics as everybody else in our charge at work. So when I really thought about, I have to change my outlook, I have to figure this out, I went on a fact-finding journey that worked well within my way of searching and my way of looking for truth. And I realized that stress and negativity are really bad for you. I found that I actually lived that. I had almost every single malady on this cycle after just years of negativity. Even with the fake positivity, which I'll go into in a little bit, I was finding myself just very depressed. I got cancer. I don't know if it was because of negativity. You can never really truly prove that causally, but there's a correlation, and that made me sit up straight and wonder on these things. So the chronic unchecked negativity that all of us are experiencing right now in society, that's really bad for us. So being stuck and ruminating on that, it's just been correlated with even more than these illnesses. But then the weird thing that I learned too is that we're also hardwired for negativity. One NSF study, there were some studies that showed less, but most studies show that humans are just negative. And one NSF study showed that 80% of our thoughts are negative, and only 20% are positive on any given day. And so it's just, but why? Why is that? So it appears as though our species was able to evolve and survive all of the stuff that used to happen long ago, and like being chased by saber-toothed tigers, like we all talk about when we talk about prehistoric times or whatever. So we needed to be able to know when danger was near. We couldn't just look outside and see only the sunshine and the flowers and all good things. We had to know when there was danger and when there was something that might kill us. And so that's why a lot of the anthropologists have posited that we are hardwired for negativity. And but we're still kind of outrunning some modern day saber-toothed tigers and the issues that were talked about on previous slides. That stress stuff is real. This is real. And so I actually think that we shouldn't deny that. I think that, and I'll go into this much more deeply here in a minute. I think that the only way that I got better was to learn incrementally how to stop actually running from that negativity, but also not fall completely prey to it. And the way that I learned that I could do that was to learn the difference between toxic and healthy negativity and toxic and healthy positivity. So like anything, we're taught that the dose makes the poison. So with healthy negativity, you have, if you get a healthy dose of it, it's also rational negativity. It reconciles our evolutionary predispositions with our modern need to be functional members of society. And for us specifically, good leaders and business owners. And here are some examples of just healthy negativity. We need to know when to avoid something. We need to know when something's not safe because people are in our charge. We need to know just kind of what's wrong. And as business owners, it's good to have a little bit of negativity. That negativity helps us be good business owners as we're de-risking our organization and making sure that people around us are safe, and it helps us make good decisions. Like if cash flow is tight, we cut expenditures and focus on getting revenue. So the point of healthy negativity is that it works for you and you're in control of the narrative. Your well-being isn't adversely affected. You're protected. It helps you get resolve to continue on with what you need to do, and it helps you outrun the modern saber-toothed tigers. But then there's toxic negativity. So again, the dose makes the poison. Toxic negativity is dangerous to your health. It's been correlated with all of these maladies that I talked about on the previous slides. It's an imbalance, and what really stuck with me is that we're already hardwired for negativity. So this is on top of that 80% that we already have as humans. And that's just a lot. That's a lot of negativity. So some toxic negative comments that we have, they can be, well, my coworkers or employees, they're flaky or they're not doing what they're supposed to. It's also kind of inflexible thinking. Cash flow is bad. We should just close. This isn't worth it. This is not worth it at all. My customers are just awful. It's not seeing any of the nuance. So the dose is the poison. If you have toxic negativity, way too much negativity, that's working against you. You're not in control of the narrative. It adversely affects your well-being. You're harmed. It causes all sorts of toxic chemical reactions in your body, and it's just inherently very inflexible. So if you kind of take positivity and contrast that with negativity, there are good effects of positivity. You have more motivation, you have sense of excitement and purpose, you're hopeful, you have better self-esteem, you get better sleep at night, better relationships. So it just seems at first glance, oh yeah, let's be positive. But again, the dose is the poison. So healthy positivity, which is also rational positivity, that feeds what's called your wise mind. And I will go into the wise mind a little bit more deeply here in a little bit. So it feeds your health, it feeds your relationships, everything. It outpours into your business relationships and activities. It's just it's just like an internal notification in your mind of what's good. It's honesty that, you know what, it's not all doom and gloom. There's a hope, there's goodness in my life. It's just knowing and noticing when something is not just all doom and gloom. And so it also releases happy chemicals in your body. Even just smiling, I guess they say, can just cause beneficial chemical reactions in your body. But again, the dose is the poison. There's been more attention paid recently in media, and I think it's generally a good thing, about toxic positivity. So after my battle with cancer, I just went toxic positive, and I did that through the pandemic too. It denies the hurt parts of you or others. It's punitive, it's judgmental towards the sufferer. So there's this, saying I hear a lot, when you don't want to get up and go do your walking in the morning, chin up, buttercup. And so that is maybe not a crazy toxic positivity, but what if you have a sprained ankle and you shouldn't be exercising? So it's just kind of denying reality. It's not kind, it's not it's not paying attention to what the body is telling you. If you are negative and there's a real rational reason there, then you shouldn't deny that. So it doesn't work for you either. Toxic positivity doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for anybody. You're not in control of the narrative. You're inherently out of control and seeking artificial control. This always backfires. It may not backfire right away, but it will backfire. It backfired on me so terribly.
Can I ask a
Oh,
quick question,
of
Val?
course. Yeah, of course.
So, well, two things. So the toxic positivity kind of explanation reminds me of that saying that false motivation is better than no motivation at all. You know, it works for a
Mhm.
little bit, but sooner or later that catches up, and that's all about transparency and being
Yeah.
authentic with yourself. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Um, the the beginning where you talked about saber-toothed tigers kind of being the catalysts for how we're hardwired for negativity and maybe that survival instinct as a business leader and someone who has dealt with this period of of being a bit down and not seeing the positive in everything. And knowing that you were predisposed to maybe 20% of your thoughts each day that would be positive, that the rest potentially negative.
Uh,
Are you actively engaged in trying to raise that 20% to 30 or 40? Or do you welcome the fact that that 80% helps you balance between the toxic and the positive negativity and 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 really directs you in where to go with that?
yeah, that's such a good question. For me, in my situation, I absolutely do have to, I do have to, and I want to increase that 20%. And so what I learned, and I'll go through some aspects of it a little bit more later too, but what I learned for myself is that that 20% only shrunk, um, or it inauthentically grew if I didn't just listen to the rational or healthy parts of negativity.
Mhm.
Because for me, it was about getting a sense of equilibrium, to listen, to get myself out of panic mode by listening to the negative aspects, but not letting them overtake me. Because once I got that good, healthy survival mechanism negativity out of the way, it opened up my mind and my heart to receive the positive. So it's like this, it's almost like yin and yang, if I can just give a concise explanation of it, that there's a little bit of good in all of the bad, and there's a little bit of bad in all of the good. And so did that answer preliminarily at least?
It did.
Okay.
And I love how you said it. It helped you manage that very delicate balance in the equilibrium between positive and negative. Because I think if you don't recognize that, I mean, this is my personal opinion, you stand the chance of becoming a bit manic, right? You're either always up or you're always down, and there's no
Yes.
equilibrium.
Right. And I've man, you brought up a great point. So that for some reason takes my mind to our teams as business owners when the world goes crazy. And work isn't life, but work is a big part of life. We spend a large portion of our time at work, and people naturally just really, they just need some sanity in their life, and some aspect of their life to not feel like you're just constantly spinning around in wild, crazy circles. And so it's the equilibrium is so powerful once you can, and nobody's perfect at it, but once you can just at least feel like you can see ahead of you, we can chart a course towards some equilibrium. It really helps you lead your team and helps them feel that they can achieve it too, just by seeing you as a leader achieve it in your daily life. So yeah, I mean, it all comes back to that, to a balance, and it's really weird. So toxic negativity happens when we ignore healthy positivity. So toxic negativity is saying there's nothing good, everything is terrible, there's no reason to hope, there's no reason to smile. So that's toxic negativity. I don't think that's talked about enough. I hope that that's next, now that we have talked about in society toxic positivity, which I think we should have. It happens when we ignore healthy negativity. So where's the balance? And I've just been really leaning in 2023 to just balance. It's just so awkwardly and beautifully human, and weird. It's just weird. So if we seek to totally suppress our negativity and focus only on the positive, like I did, we burn out and we become more negative, because toxic positivity is actually negative. So if we give in to our negativity and we deny the positive, we become more negative. So that's toxic negativity. So the only solution, in my opinion, and what worked for me, the only thing that pulled me out, was it to be actually day in and day out to feel more positive and to be more positive, was to integrate the two healthy aspects, positive and negative, and make both work for me. So this is where what's called the wise mind. Some people call it the ideal self, the evolved you. There's several different terms for that in the world right now. And so it's a balance. Again, it's a balance. It takes time to master. I recommend just give yourself some grace. You have been through crazy stuff. We've all been through just absolute baddie, once in a lifetime stuff. And I saw a funny meme the other day on social media where the person wondered what chapter of Revelation we're doing today. Like, it's really crazy. This is crazy stuff that we're living today. And so just give yourself some grace. And again, positive and negative, you need to integrate them. And I'll give some kind of real life examples in a minute, but you need to let the natural positive and negative drives that are in you, in my opinion, you have to get into some equilibrium, and then you can naturally receive and give positivity, because you have not suppressed this, this thing behind your eyes that is trying to keep you from getting chased by saber-toothed tigers. It's still there. It's still primal, but you're living in a modern world, and you have to integrate that and reconcile that with living in this world. But the other thing is that even if it's naturally 20%, it's still naturally hardwired for positivity too. That's another way that we evolved as a species, is our bond with others, and even just our capacity to love and to feel wonder, which I'll touch on again here in a little bit.
Before you move to the next slide, may I ask a question that came over the chat?
Yes.
Okay. So this question is about culture,
Mm-hmm.
and I can almost imagine the thought process that went into this, because you're describing as a leader how you're giving yourself grace, you're recognizing these things in yourself, but also as a leader, you're probably looking at those around you to see how that's impacting them, or if they're, they have their own challenges. So the question is, folding mental health into our business culture, especially authentically, as you discussed, is difficult. It's personal and emotional, and we have to be honest about it. How can leaders incorporate this approach and the acceptance of mental health into their internal policies and culture? So is there something that you are now inspired to change within your own business and culture as a result of this?
Yeah, and that's an amazing question. And I could probably talk for 5 straight hours about that. I'm going to give a really bare bones practical bit of information, because I could wax poetic and just maybe not provide other startuppers or small business owners with tools that they could like start tomorrow. So I want to do that. So I'm sorry if this seems bare bones. I joined a PEO instead of handling all of the payroll and HR stuff by myself. So we're a small business. There's just no way around it. And so to do mental health right in the way that the person asking the question is positing, it could be more lengthy and expensive than a lot of the startups here can handle right now. But the PEO that I signed up with, they have employee assistance programs, and they have we get to, because we are integrated into this larger network, there's telehealth for mental health, where it covers a number of like therapist appointments for free. And so that's like a practical way to do it. And then when I sign into that, it's reminding me. So if I'm not thinking of it as much as I should be, because I'm fallible, it reminds me to send a prompt and to kind of check in with myself too. And so that's one way that you can affordably do it, just to actually put it in the backbone of your organization. And then I think as a business owner, if you have hired a team and you've built up enough trust with them, and this is kind of a play it by ear thing. I don't know how to do this for other organizations. I do know that we are open in our organization about it. And it may be because I and the other founders have been open. Maybe it is. I'm actually really interested to ask some of my teammates, is it open? Because I'm a little bit open. Did I miss any part of that question?
No, I think quite contrary to you being very surface about your answer, that was really detailed, and I think covered it all. Thank you so much.
Great, of course. So yeah, the next part of this is reforming yourself. So what I mean by reforming is kind of how can you rewire your brain a little bit? So they're inside, at least this is my opinion. So I was an elementary school teacher in a past life, and to be a teacher that is even remotely effective at the baseline, you really have to believe in the inherent value of every human. And that actually has served me really well as a business leader, because if I see somebody as a human first and valuable first, then anything can be worked out. And I really believe that about everybody. Inside of all of us, there is a wise mind. And again, some folks call that the ideal self or evolved self. And at a baseline, the wise mind is there to protect you. It's you, but it's also there to protect you. And I always look at it as like just a chief of staff, like the person who has your back all the time. And it's you. So it's best. The best thing is that it's you, so you can read each other's mind. So the wise mind is situationally aware. Winter Winds Robotics is just obsessed with situational awareness. That's a whole long story. It's built into the DNA of every piece of technology that we build. And so basically, the wise mind is able to integrate the negative and the positive together into an action plan that helps the person, this helped me begin to be able to be authentically positive. And I say begin because I am a work in progress too, but the first time I really felt authentic, true, hands out, in anticipation of positivity was when I actually listened to that saber-toothed tiger mind. I listened and I isolated that anticipation into what some people call an anti-vision plan. There are some studies that suggest that it's much easier to define what you don't want and to go after that than to try to define what you do want and go after that. And it's my opinion that that's based in that drive, that drive to see negativity first, because that protected us so many eons ago. So then, let me say this as concisely as I can. I think that you should make a to-don't list when you start feeling negative. And that is to say, what don't I want? So here's a real life example from work. So example, a customer's mad. So anticipate the bad. I might lose this account. So my toxic positive self might have said, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But that always, without fail, backfired on me. That never worked. So what helps me is anticipate the bad. My body, my mind is telling me that for a reason. I should listen to it. So I'm listening to it, okay? But I also have this wise mind that's got my back. It's ready to help me out. So that wise mind is going to help me create an anti-vision. What don't I want? I don't want to panic. I don't want to ignore the customer. I don't want to be defensive. I don't want to lose the account. So we've talked it through. That wise mind is like my personal assistant, my chief of staff, my inner mom or whatever, who's saying, okay, so this person is affirming my fears, and I'm going to continue to delegate that to the wise mind. So what else do I not do to get there? So we can list that out. There's usually not a whole lot when you're in that negative. There's usually like 4 or 5 things that you don't want to happen. So usually by then you've listed that out. So now what do we do to not get there? And so now you can see I'm sort of tweaking it towards the positive. So I've just now paid attention to that negative, but I'm trusting my wise mind now to start heading towards the positive. It usually begins with, what can I do to show myself grace as I navigate this continuum? Okay, these are all the things I don't want to happen, but before I say what I do want to happen, I need to have compassion for myself. That's very hard, that takes time, but how can I place the situation more on the positive spot on the continuum? So now that we've paid attention to the negative, we can start doing the positive things. Okay, so I don't want to ignore the customer. What should I do? I should call the customer. What did I say up there? I don't want to panic. I can deep breathe. I don't want to be defensive. I should engage in empathy for that customer, to see it from the customer side. I don't want to lose the account. I'm going to share a game plan with the customer of how we're going to fix this. So then you just start going towards the positive step by step. So again, now that we've paid attention and we've honored that mechanism in our body and our brain that keeps us from danger, now we're in a place where we can integrate into a place of positivity. So positivity and negativity are a balance that both protect you. And you can, and it's my opinion, again, this is what worked for me. The only way I could start even inching towards positivity in a way that felt real to me was to actually give that negativity a little bit of attention. And then I looked within to my wise mind to realize what I don't want. Again, paying just a little bit of attention to that negative still, developing an anti-action plan. And then once I had what I don't want, then I was able to start doing what I need to do more in the positive direction and feeling like that was attainable instead of just shutting down and freaking out like I used to. So now that we've reformed ourselves, we've started, we're not perfect, we're kind of rewiring things a little bit. Now we can transform ourselves. And just in the past 6 to 9 months, even though I haven't been super physically well yet, I'm getting better. People have seen the change in me, and it's weird. I have started without even trying to activate the wiser mind in other people, not just people that I work with, but friends and family. When they see me behaving in that way, giving myself grace, paying attention to the negativity for just a little bit to affirm that, yes, there is a negative feeling being felt, I've noticed that that activates the wise mind in others. And also I've noticed that I have more grace for others. I'm affirming their feelings as well. And so because I'm harnessing those mechanisms in my brain, it's freeing. It kind of frees up. I'm not fighting my nature. So then I am able to I'm able to look around and see all of the positive things that actually are there. And again, I cannot tell you how many people just doing that has naturally begun to heal some of the relationships that got strained as a result of my toxic positivity in the pandemic. It's just been so transformational. And positivity too is a natural drive. So I have more bandwidth to partake in the natural positivity part of being a human as well. So kind of to wrap up on this, don't starve your wise mind. Your wise mind is the evolved version of you. It needs super nutrients, just like bodies need, and it thrives best on wonder. I didn't even consider wonder in the pandemic. We were also just torn up inside over the rawness of what was going on around us. Wonder, what just fascinates you endlessly? That's your equilibrium insurance. That's what's going to help you stay aware of that positive and negative naturally. For me, I have several things that I'm just obsessed with that just make me feel small in a good way, and that's something called the constructal law, and it's depicted here that blood vessels and leaves and even dry soil and city diagrams and rivers. There's all this flow of energy that just graphically looks similar. I'm also obsessed with space. There's a picture of M87 there. Just things that make me just go, wow, oh my gosh, music too. Bach in particular, just some of these classical pieces of music that are so complex and beautiful and just make me realize that there is so much good and just amazing about existing. Winter Winds Robotics is inspired by the Pale Blue Dot speech from Carl Sagan. And if you have not heard it, I really recommend that you look it up. It's just life-changing. This is a picture of Earth as seen from one of the Voyagers. I can't remember if it's one or two, and Carl Sagan was so overcome with wonder at how small Earth is from so far away. And when on my worst days, when I just don't know how I can make it through, I am filled with wonder by that speech and this quote that this little tiny dot is where we live, and so we should make the best of it, and that all of our problems, while real, are just my goodness, when held into the when held against the vastness of space, they are surmountable. And I think that's my takeaway. That's what I want to leave with the listeners, that this is a surmountable issue. You can become authentically positive, but only by also paying a little bit of attention to the negative and giving that a little bit of respect and grace, and just giving it a little bit of time to be shared. So that is that.
Thank you so much, Valerie. That was fantastic. At the beginning, as you kind of alluded to the purpose of your presentation, which was to inform yourself, reform yourself, and transform yourself. I know that was very introspective to all the things that you've worked through in the past couple of years, but I can only imagine that your team has learned a great deal as a result of that as well, and probably made them better personally and professionally. So I'd be very very grateful to have that opportunity to learn from them, their experience with that journey with you. But a couple takeaways from me. Saber-tooth tigers, I guess I'm super grateful that they are the reason that we're all motivated to remain vigilant, and on the flip side, responsible for 80% of our negative thoughts during the day. But that has, its own benefits, and that is you really eloquently described the balance when I asked about how you take that 20% and elevate it. And you talked about equilibrium and finding the grace within yourself to find that equilibrium that results in authentic positivity. Only I can imagine embraces the mindset of your team, the customers that you work with, and those around you. So everybody's human, and they recognize that we'll all have ups, we'll all have downs. And I think every one of us recognizes and respects those who handle adversity with calm and grace, and truly comes out the better for it. And then I really loved your description of the wise mind. It brings to mind the cliche that, bad news doesn't get better with age. If you feel like there's something wrong, then face it full on, eat that frog. It's the first thing that you want to get out of the way, get the hard stuff taken care of. And if you envision that there are options and alternatives and branches and sequels to addressing that, then there's not going to be bad news. It's just going to be news that ultimately you kind of expected. And then the last takeaway is the wonder piece. I love that. Our agency is built on curiosity. I think anybody who's got a curious mind is always going to be looking for the good in others and things, and that helps out personally and professionally. So I would just say that your team is very lucky to have a leader who has explored and been very introspective about all of the opportunities to improve themselves and ultimately your organization. And people leave organizations because of the leadership and not the job per se. So I imagine you have just set a great bar for all of those young engineers and leaders within your organization. And we are very, very happy that you're on this tiny blue dot with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful to have you guys too. I'm such a fan of Avocet and Longmont Startup Week, and it's just a great ecosystem here.
It really is. So on behalf of all those that joined and all those that will watch this on all the platforms that we'll share it on, we're really thankful that you spent time with us today.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.